In passage. The insulation is ripped off. Cardboard, rotting wood, termites seek refuge in your hands. Your feet vanish into boggy floor. Mossy, mildewed fragments fly. Wander with your retreat. Discover new passages. Enter. Vanish like time. Surrounded by a blaze. Unfocused. Sensations wrestle you down. Shift into new technology. Change old words to new phraseology. You learn to pass it by. There is no more base, just slopes, drops, unexpected rise.
Connection. Each of us, as a living poem, lives our gift in the same universe, the shared universe, the one that we all call home.
Each life pulse gives a beat, wakes our designs to take shape, sculpting our perfect place, this place where each of us claims a space and time as our own.
We take the challenge of our significance and try our history to make our difference. Rhythms are offered to move our circle. We dance, we dance. We warm up our band to orchestrate. Reach out, give us a hand, and hold together in the same mystery.
We poems, known, unknown, and spirited, embrace in divides of undivided space. Our eternal dance of spirals, sway, swirl, and flow, affected and connected.
In this gift of a universe we all call our own.
In this gift of a universe we all call our own,
We are dancing together
we are dancing together
and never alone.
and never alone. Connection.
Each of us, as a living poem, lives our gift in the same universe, the shared universe, the one that we all call home.
Each life pulse gives a beat, wakes our designs to take shape, sculpting our perfect place, this place where each of us claims a space and time as our own.
We take the challenge of our significance and try our history to make our difference. Rhythms are offered to move our circle. We dance, we dance. We warm up our band to orchestrate. Reach out, give us a hand, and hold together in the same mystery.
We poems, known, unknown, and spirited, embrace in divides of undivided space our eternal dance of spirals, sway, swirl, and flow, affected and connected.
In this gift of a universe we all call our own.
In this gift of a universe we all call our own,
We are dancing together
we are dancing together
and never alone.
and never alone.
Hello, everybody. I'm Vika Angley, and I welcome you and your poetry to the Dancing Poetry's 28th year of Dancing Poetry Festival. And this is Richard Angley, and maybe he would say something.
The mission of our nonprofit arts organization, Artist Embassy International,
Which is to further understanding and goodwill and peace through the universal language of the arts.
it gives us great pleasure to introduce you to our editor and Director of Media, Arthur Levinson.
There he is, Arthur. Give you a hand.
And our AEI board member who talks to you about winning works and makes so much of this program happen, our multi-talented awards director and AEI secretary, Cindy Levinson. We are also privileged and delighted to introduce you to our multi-talented poet, author, webmaster, second vice president, and annual Dancing Poetry Contest chair, Judy Harden Chum.
Thank you, Richard.
And greetings, everyone. It's so good to see everybody here. And Judy, take the program to its completion.
All
Yeah.
greetings to you all. I'm excited that we can be here together via Zoom and are reading for the 2021 prize-winning poems. Without further ado, let's hear from Sarah Quayle, Dorchester, Massachusetts, with her poem, Voices, read by her daughter, Charlie Quayle. Charlie?
I will be reading my mother's poem, Voices. Her name is Sarah Quayle, and she's from Dorchester, Massachusetts. Our voices rise from all the corners of the earth, a cacophony of tongues, a babel. From our first breath, we wail our arrival into a world of uncertainty. We are the laughter of children, carefree and delighted. We sing to our babies in 7,000 languages. We are soft, sweet choirs in many cathedrals, prayers in many mosques, anthems to our motherlands. We rejoice. We shout from mountaintops and echo through the valleys. The tone and timbre of our voices oscillate outward, unique and diverse, our humanity laid bare in broad daylight or in the dark of night. Too often, our collective silent weeping becomes sobbing, then keening, desolate mothers of soldiers, victims of the unspeakable, the burdened, and the lonely. We cry out for mercy, and our voice is lost to the air as from a speeding train. Yet our voices are the instruments of change. We must choose our words carefully. They can make a world of difference. Thank you.
Very much. What a beautiful poem to begin our session. This is the author of that beautiful poem.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on now to Allegra Silverstein from Davis, California, with her poem, The Night is a Dark Wind.
My name's Allegra Silverstein, and I'm from Davis. And this poem that I'm going to be reading is in the form of a pantoum. I love forms. Sometimes I just use them to get started and then abandon them. But with this one, I kept it because it led me on in interesting ways. The night is a dark wind, whispering secrets under a starless sky, bending the tender trees, whispering secrets told in strange tongues, finding the tender tree, holding them to its words, told in strange tongues, deciphered in green leaves, the holding of words with shadows between. Decipher the green leaves beneath our dark clouds. Let not shadows between cloud our inner sight. Let not the dark clouds steal the blue sky air or cloud our inner sight as we breathe in the night. With the breath of clear air, be one with the stalwart trees as we breathe in the night, the dark that it holds. One with the old, strong trees, rooted in earth, freeze through though the night's dark wind bends the tender trees.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Allegra.
Next, Gail Teller from Plainview, New York with Off to Work.
Thank you. I am so honored to be here, and thank you, Artist Embassy International, for this distinction. I'm Gail Teller from New York. I'm going to read Off to Work. This poem is for a small boy in India. Small as Rahul is, for he's only 6. And so far away from me, he shrinks in the distant Tumakuru dawn as he carries his filthy plastic bag his mother bestowed, sent him off again, unmasked, barefoot, with his bump of malnourished belly. As I relish another spoonful of rainbow cake, tartufo on top, mask in my pocket at the diner's outdoor table, 6 feet from others, and Rahul rummages through a garbage dump littered with broken glass, slits his thumb as he lifts a shard from among stinky discards, prizes the plastic piece to recycle for his mother for a few cents per hour. Since March, when India closed its schools, and no one has praised him as bright as his teacher had since then. As I, on leave since the pandemic, unknowing how to teach online for real, pay the check to the masked waiter, drive off with Rahul facing up, lying next to me, his eyes open and bound by where I take them, as they look out from the front page. But Rahul and I will never meet. Further, the faster I drive away in my distant galaxy of experiences, yet the more he shrinks from my sensibility, the dimmer each step he takes in my view with his bleeding, unshod soles, his stabbing, hungry belly. The larger Rahul gets in the looming, entangled human family. Thank you.
Wow.
Oh, so poignant. Thank you. We have Cecilia Roberts Ward from Marshall, North Carolina. I am a flower.
I'm Cecilia Roberts Ward from Marshall, North Carolina, and this is my poem, I'm a Flower. And I thank you, those Artist Embassy International, for giving those of us encouragement in our writing. I am a flower. I was sent to be with you at your ancient dawning on earth, that your food be plenty, that your path hold delight, your hours be brightened, and to bear testament that the fragile can survive and thrive. I celebrate your joy, cheer you in sadness, comfort you in pain, and speak for your loved ones when they have no words. My time is fleeting. Listen, you will come to a knowing that too, your hours are precious and few. Spare not yourself. Celebrate joy cheer sorrow, comfort pain, bloom and give fruit. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Reader is Dave Holt from Concord, California, with Easter Sunrise.
I'm Dave Holt from Concord, California, just outside of Berkeley, Oakland. Thank you for having me today. Easter Sunrise. Walked out of tangled and sleepy dreams, left under cover and comforter. Dim room to ebullience, into light and color of sunrise through an east-facing window. As it hit the coral, tan, grass-green tones of the lampshade, lit up bright as if lamp was left on all night, unconstrained radiance pooled in the corner, stopped by a locked front door. Open it, let it flow over earth. This cascade catches me rapt, but doubtful that such a gush of happiness could be mine. Now I pray for it as I drag front room curtains open. No clouds this morning, and there on the edge of the bird bath, contemplating across the still surface of water, the cerulean blue of day, its destiny, an avian hunter of blossoms and nectars, a hummingbird, who leaps into air, darts back and forth, then away. Oh, to have the heart and happiness of a hummingbird, full of curious seeking, and in that moment I see it, the joy of existence. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Welcome to Wonderland. In a fairy tale or animated cartoon, it's heroic adventure. Enter a special world, traveling through that looking glass to startlingly new adventure. Your circus comes to town and rearranges normal view into magical perspective. Unusual talents transform you. Mysterious powers and skills make real your own vivid dream. But is that another world? Different? Elsewhere? Not here? Where's that fantasy here? Here we're caught in routine, locked in habitual pattern, usually asleep to our own unique rhythm. Yet our routine is our rhythm, our habits, our creativity, patterns for being free. Let our visions awake. We dance our dazzling spin on the edge of all creation. Here's there, there's here. We are all that. Wonderland, being here and there at once. We live within that wonder, flapping out our own sheets, creating ourselves constantly. Welcome, welcome to Wonderland. It's a sad age. Most poets cry, in rage, in compassion. Some poets survive. They struggle with good words to express the horrors they see, they feel, they know they cannot express in good words. Most poets try. They turn death and despair into whatever words they need to use to explore life's weird dimensions. And then they fire those good words into space. Poets know space. They travel far, traveling through space as a primal form, traveling, then returning beyond the shadows of death, timeless, now, returning as poets to this land of joy and sorrow, to this flicker in our imagination, to this fearful weight of laughter, tears, and longing. Poets know longing. Ah, so here I am again on earth, waiting for that brightness, that most beautiful brightness. Poets live in that wonder, always within my heart, illuminating every cell, illuminating every part of my being, every minute part of my being. Yes, yes, a voyage into today. A fragment, sounds, sights, words, scraping away, scraping sound. Child crying in the doorway, thoughts in books being read, songs on records, neighbors shouting, memories jumping in and out, memories jumping out of place, jumping into bizarre arrangements, programs to improve your mind, programs to gain technical skills, systems to sell most everything, including you and your talents. And so, what's your real fulfillment? What are your special vantage points? Where is your special creativity within life's unfolding mystery? And so, you go to work to teach children, teach games like war and peace to children. Go to work to teach parents to be surprised. A voyage into today.
Our next reader will be Suzanne Cottrell from Oxford, South Carolina, with Harmonious Healer.
Suzanne Cottrell, and I'm from Oxford, North Carolina, which is north of Raleigh-Durham. It's a very rural area. I'm so delighted to be here and honored to be among so many wonderful writers. I'm going to read Harmonious Healer, and this was inspired a trip that we had made to Alaska. Harmonious Healer. Turquoise connects sky blues to aquamarine seas, life-giving elements of air and water. As my self-confidence ebbs and flows, I seek seclusion on a tropical island, surrounded by soothing, tepid, blue-green waters. Rainbow and tetrafish shimmer peacefully beneath the surface. Rhythmic waves lap, spiritual lullabies, attempt to calm my inner turmoil. My thoughts churn like ocean surf until wisdom glows, resembles dazzling bioluminescent swirls. I taste, smell salty spray, transport myself to pristine Alaskan waters, stunning turquoise tinted glacial ice, awakens my emotions. Ice calves into northern waters, my worries break off, drift away, melt in warmer seas. Turquoise, a master healer that adorns my physical being while it purifies my mind, realigns my energy, restores my inner harmony. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. That truly is. We'd like to hear from Diane Woodcock from Midlothian, Virginia, and she spends much of her time of the year in the country of Qatar teaching in a university. Diane will be reading two poems, Ingenious State of Mind and Secretary. Diane?
My name is Diana Woodcock, and I am here today in Midlothian, Virginia, and then I spend 9 months of the year in Doha, Qatar teaching. So the first poem I'll be reading is entitled Indigenous State of Mind. Sickened by this modern lifestyle, I return to an indigenous state of mind, tenderness and humility, beauty and simplicity, dancing and poetry. Grieving for vanishing bees and melting glaciers, I open my heart to take them in and breathe them out again. We become spiritually kin. The earth, sea, and wind speak to me. The insects, birds, and animals in psalms of survival. Cranes and loons, cicadas all long summer afternoons, an orphaned elephant in Zambia crying for her murdered mother. I return to an indigenous way of being, learn to simply sit and do nothing, silent and still as a sunbeam warming the windowsill. Not so much intent on seizing happiness, but rather letting it find and light on me, weightless as a butterfly. I do not clutch at it or cling like a locust to the tree bark. I know the dark night is coming, but no need for running from it, for I am filled now with all that was, is, and will be, no longer grasping as the forests burn and the poles melt. Without doubt, I whirl and sing the song of eternity. Sorry, done at long last and forever with modernity. The second poem is entitled Secretary. One sighting of the secretary bird on the African savanna, Amagana, Sagittarius serpentarius, regal, a cross between a crane and an eagle, with its fierce demeanor, a raptor with a hooked beak apt for attacking its prey, long legs fitting for the runway. Breathing in, breathing out, I am one with him. Other birds moving about, laughing dove, lavalance, cuckoo, they all call and coo. But all I can do is focus on the secretary. A cool, dull February morning, a fine mist of rain falling. My only task all day to watch birds and connect passion with words. Thanks be to this African floodplain, season of rain, birds cruising through grasses, global warming alarming for everything whose rituals are tied to this lion-colored land. The rains came late this year, but now the teaks are blushing pink, thorn trees flaming, marula dropping its hard green fruit, and yet not yet ripe enough to anticipate. I linger with one elegant secretary on the threshold of spring, everything holding its breath, the universe keeping still for one instant, the bird concealed in shadows of leaves and branches, revealed by a breeze or slightest turn of head. I watch, stalled, enthralled by the life of this one long-lashed raptor I shall be singing the praises of forever after. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Dana from Alameda, California. Will you please read to us to her class from her computer?
I'm Kathy Dana from Alameda, California, and my poem is to her class from her computer. I have been teaching creative writing and creative expressions at a middle and high school here in Alameda for 14 years. And this year, of course, because of the pandemic, we were all on Zoom. So that meant I got to see a sea of Zoom screens when I taught. And unlike here today, most of their Zoom screens were, the videos were off. So this was my response to that. And it's as if my computer is writing the poem. With a click of her mouse, she wakes me out of sleep mode, ready for Zoom. She shows up with love of writing in her heart, waiting to see her class, see your faces. She shows up to whisk you off to the realm of imagination, hoping to ignite your creative spark. She shows up to impart to you the secrets of good writing, how to write a kick-ass character and plot that no one wants to stop reading. She shows up knowing that video cams can be intrusive, too revealing, like a window into your private space, your private life. Like a mirror staring back at you, a mirror everyone else can see. But she still shows up wanting to see your faces, to know you're there, to know if what she's saying is landing, is making any sense at all, to know if you have questions or answers or ideas. But your windows are mostly dark, and she just sees your names or memes. She sighs, and her shoulders slump ever so slightly, like her sails have lost the wind, like her tree has lost its leaves, like she lost her favorite sweater and she looks and looks but just can't find it anywhere. Like she texts her best friend on her phone, but no one answers, and she keeps texting, "You there? You there?" And no one answers. But she shows up. She still shows up with love of writing in her heart, hoping.
Beautiful.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being the voice of the world. We really appreciate it here. Thanks again, everybody.
We
Thanks
appreciate
again.
you so much for helping us to be the voice.
Essence makes the stretch. 1. The light of mind dreams the poet. The artist makes the reach for infinity. Forever is begun. The favored what ifs prompt the pen to write the poem. Poetic prompts arouse and spark the union. Thought and action meet the muses, connect in moving fusion. We dance the shape of figure 8. Infinity is transmitted with phrase and symbol and image. 2. We are prompted to poetic invention and imagine ourselves as creative fountains. Potential is on the rise. We remember the bursting exuberance of Isadora Duncan. Expressions of natural delight refreshes our love for poetry that loves to dance. We identify with our creative excitement. We renew and energize. 3, the zig and zag sharpens, alternate directions, angle and point. Our artistry reignites. The lightning of the aha opportunity lights our sky. Our poetry ignites. 4, toward and away, contrasts the action, shows us where to look and what to know. Prompts from words. Look here and here. 5, we are moved in forward intention. Our progress prompts discussion. Stepping back help perception. To proceed or recede is a moving decision. Courage can be generous. 6, connection is a circle that holds us together. Our world of words is a globe of possibility. The dancers, Ruth St. Denis and Ted Shawn, share the circle of pageantry. We join together in the endless and unending search for unity and community. 7, the grand invitation is unmistaken and warmly beckons us all to share the dance of the greater universe. Prompts are bursting with words of welcome. We are living poems, breathing the dance of being, the poetry of becoming. A moving summary. Heart and soul may call the poem to wish to partner, the ever-unfolding romance of poetry with dance. Poems dance of challenge and mission, feeling, perception, love, and presence. Our global humanity shares possibility. Connections of word and motion holds and unfolds poetic essence. Dance is prompted by poetry. Poetry is prompted to dance.
We have another exciting group of prize-winning poets to read for us. And we'd like to have Johanna Ely, past poet laureate of Benicia, California, to read her Time of Poetry. Johanna?
Thank you, Judy. And thank you, Natika and Richard. And I'm really happy and excited to be here and honored. My name is Johanna Ely, and I'm from Benicia, California. My poem is titled Time of Poetry, and originally it was written for a painting, so it's an ekphrastic poem. Time of Poetry. In the beginning, when cloud people walked across a sienna clay sky, Cocopelli spun his poems on the desert mesas. In his sack, he carried creation stories, corn seeds, and unborn babies longing for a mother's kiss. His flute announced flying saucers and red rock sunsets. Twisting and turning down indigo canyons, He could change himself into a clever snake, a spiral of stars, a circular dream spinning on a sapphire river. The owl, the hawk, and the eagle dropped feathers in his honor. The earth, the sky, and the water sang his rain songs. It was a time of joy and enlightenment for all who listened. At twilight, the sound of his flute still drifts down the winding riverbed. Poems crooned by a trickster wind, the faint outline of a humpbacked shaman dancing on canyon walls. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. Evie Groff from El Cerrito, California, will read for us her Uncertain Prayer.
From El Cerrito, and I wrote this poem because I do not feel that we're listening enough to nature and its messages. And even though climate change is on our minds and it's serious, there's still hope. And by the end of the poem, I reveal that. So, uncertain prayer. Fearful that nature will not survive us, I am lured to the undulating floor of a cathedral of trees. The russet canopy, a colander straining sun rays, allowing light to drip through and announce the morning in earnest. One sapling bullies its way into belonging. Others observe with patience, no judgment. Nursing logs, the altars for rituals, offer comfort and sustenance to congregants unsure of prayer. They gather by need, by awe, by chance, stunned by rainbow streaks of lichen, spattered on these maternal platforms from a divine bucket of paint. No choir, no organ, trees tune the winter wind, create a symphony of motion, movements with no baton, orchestrated by grassroots. I focus on the intricate face, on the intricate lace connecting trees in the morning brilliance, the dewy vision, a web woven by a vacant landlord. Leaving the forest, I see a sky so thick with blue, it seemed smeared on with finger paints. My fears allayed, my hope restored, I linger on the path that takes the long way home.
Marvelous. Thank you. Garrett Murphy from Oakland, California, will you read for us Califia, Original Californian?
Hey, I'm Garrett Murphy from Oakland, and I kind of wrote this as a combination of Black History Month and Women's History Month, and this is what I came up with. Calafia, Original Californian. Regal Black woman, embodiment of strength, courage, and wisdom, from the Isle of California off the coast of Asia, name believed to be formed from Khalifa, Arabic term for religious state leader, any leader she is, of armies, of women, of ships, and a beast, heroine of the Adventures of Esplandian by Rodriguez de Montalvo, depicted in story and painted in films, and believe it or not, even at one time an attraction at Disneyland, and then appears in a video named codenamed STEAM as a member of Abe Lincoln Strike Force. But don't let those above two glitches diminish your respect. Calafia reigns supreme nonetheless, symbol of pre-Europe, land untamed, has brought a name and not a little of her force to the Baja, the Baja Sur, and the most populated U.S. state, of course, the family California.
Hey, very good.
The power of water. A dying leaf crashed on the windshield of a car and falls down to the road. My husband and I have a sad feeling while driving in Berkeley. Leaves of trees are so dusty and dry, and many of them are almost dead and hanging miserably in the branches. It is because of the terrible drought here, an effect of the global warming and progress on the earth. But suddenly, my husband looks outside and said to me with cheerful voice and smile, "I feel rain smell. How nice. I love this." I opened a window of my side and tried to catch it. Yes, yes, I can feel faintly and certainly a fresh organic moisture in the dry air. It is a long time missed. I did deeply breathe and pull a tasty, misty air into my inside. My body feels so happy and refreshed. It's like floating on a wave of the mist. I can hear a joy. Sounds of air are catching and holding tiny mists and preparing to make drops that silently fall on the earth and humbly give energy to the planet. I can hear happy sounds of grass, flowers, trees, animals, rivers, mountains, and everybody who is catching the dynamic energy of mist, rapidly falling and stretching and growing in their lives. The colors also wake up, turning to shining freshness. How wonderful is the power born of mist. How wonderful is the power born of mist. Water is a gathering of millions of mists. Water is the source of life. Water is richness, a gift of nature. In Ikebana, water is as important as flower, branch, and other materials. Water gives joy to our lives. I love the touch of water for purifying the world and its way of playing with imagination. Water brings me so much meaningful life and pure mind. Water is a gathering of millions of myths. Water is the source of life. Water is richness, a gift of nature. In Ikebana, water is as important as flower, branch, and color materials. Water gives joy to our lives. I love the touch of water for purifying the world and its way of playing with imagination. Water brings me so much meaning in life and pure mind. I always appreciate loving and enjoying play with water while doing Ikebana.
Our next reader will be Romeo Alcala Cruz from Hayward, California, reading for us Suman, or Sweet Sticky Rice.
Thank you very much, Judy,
Okay.
and all the sponsors of Dancing Poetry. I want to show you when I read at my hometown over there in my Naga City, I read it's not Suman. It's poetry reading also, year 2018.
Oh, very good.
Years ago.
Thank you.
One of our greatest delicacy or food is suman. It's like a comfort food. Whenever we feel lonely or we feel hungry, our minds goes back to suman. Suman, sweet sticky rice. When Manay Flora makes the suman, sprinkled with anise, she cast a spell over the whole house and neighborhood. The walls smell of sweet sticky sugar cane and move closer. The scent is just so sweet that loneliness flies away, even as she rolls a ladle over the whole pan, making everyone talk. What will happen when she's gone? As she is already 83 years old, and the old way of cooking suman will soon be forgotten. The painstakingly long white smoke coming from the wood burning stove, and how the smell just goes over the whole town, which has just put on a happy face. Everybody becomes a relative or a friend here when it comes to suman. Even the stubborn-headed man like Chong Agoy, when he eats suman, softens like a kitten. That makes him full and happy for solid 10 hours, cutting the hair of children and adults without bothered by hunger or thirst. Everybody craves direction, even as we go on our chosen careers. But we go back to the suman of Manay Flora whenever we are called back by pangs of hunger, and the heart knows the right things. When the rice simmers, I can hear the roof repair itself after the rains. I can feel the sun comes over the whole town and makes us whole again. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice. I do like sticky rice. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Churchill from Ukiah, California, will read Art of Pruning.
Jabez Churchill. Jabez is hard to pronounce, so I often go by my middle name, William, so you can call me Bill too, if you can't pronounce Cabez. There you go. Anyway, it's called The Art of Pruning. There is an art to pruning, knowing when and where to cut after the last leaves pale and fall, before the last hard frost. When what green branch just above last season's wood promises to bud, hold fruit, even to the callous wind? I cannot pretend to choose, discriminate between my own desire, what may blossom and what may not. I only know the cost, the loss of holding on too much, too long, and nearly bleeding out. The task is knowing what and when to cut, let go before the tree is broken.
Okay, very nice. Eliza Schaefer, Albany, California. Thank you. Eliza Schaefer, Albany, California. Photo album, Prayer to Lucy Miller, Suffragette.
My name is Eliza Scheffler, and I've been living in Albany for 40 years now. This poem is from a group I call Photo Album, mostly about my family. Photo album, Prayer to Lucy Kennedy Miller, Suffragette. Wire rims, smile wryly at myself in the mirror, recognizing. Grandma, I say, I wish you'd lived till I grew up, so I could argue with you. I wish I had your strength of character to arrest the mayor of Pittsburgh for malfeasance in office, to stop Navy jets from roaring low over your Eastern Shore home. I was only a child, always scared of you, your booming voice, my shaking in my shoes. But I still remember, after reciting my times tables, you demanding I read Shakespeare from a tiny red leather book that crumbled as I opened it, to your dismay. I never saw you cry before, or knew that you trembled each time a storm came. Grandma, take my hand. Run outside with me. Soak in the rain. Glory in the thunder and lightning. This is an offering to you. Give me the strength to face the raging tides of humanity. This is a gift from you. A photo of the Pennsylvania legislature taken over 60 years ago. You're smiling knowingly, the only woman in a sea of men.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
I would like to say that we didn't get to say this too many times, and we do say it a lot, but the whole purpose, which you can see what has occurred, your poetry has fulfilled the mission of Artist Embassy International and the Dancing Poetry Festival, which is to further understanding and goodwill and peace through the universal language of the arts. And you see that poetry has the voice that carries us, we feel, furthest into the new realms of hope for the future. So I do want to thank you especially. I want to thank Arthur especially for helping us make a Zoom work, and Cindy for calling you and speaking so beautifully to all of you, and Judy for making this work and putting it together and keeping us, she's the contest chair and everything else, our web master also, and Richard, of course, who's my poet laureate and my own husband poet. And we have been co-founders of the festival. Now, this is the 28th year, and thank you for sharing it with us. We really appreciate it. Give each other
Thank
a
you.
big
Give everybody a big hand for all of us. Thank you. Yay.
Hello again. I'm Natika Angeli, and I'm just bursting with excitement about this particular segment of this show. Over the years, we have had a grand tradition at Artist Embassy International, and that's the Gold Seal Book Awards. And our very own Judy Harden Chung, nod your head, little Judy, wave. There's Judy, has put out this gorgeous book. Judy is so multi-talented. She's firstly a poet and an artist and an organizer. So for us, for Artist Embassy's 70th anniversary year, it gives me the most pleasure to award the Gold Seal Book Literary Award for this year, 2021, to Poetography by Judy Harden Chung. Yes,
Thank you, Natika. Thank you.
I'd like to just start with, because you've been doing this with us for many years at art galleries and showings of your photography and your poetry, and you have been explaining it for so long in different art galleries. But you know, this audience may not have heard. What is poetography?
Thank you, Natika.
You're welcome.
Poetography is a made-up word from poetry and photography. I thought you, Natika, and I, along with art promoter Anger Mora, made up this word. But then when I put it on Amazon, where it's now available, I found there's at least 7 other books using the word poetography in their titles or subtitles. My book, Poetography, is the interplay of creating a poem inspired by a photograph, and sometimes a photograph that will be inspired by the poem. Each entry is a combination of a poem and a related photograph. I have also included one of my paintings, a composite clip art off the internet that I put together different bits and pieces and parts, and some of your paintings, Natika. Photographs of certain paintings sometimes better illustrate an abstraction than a conventional photo.
Oh, you know, the poetography, because it's almost documentary, but not. It's almost an overview of life lived in the world, but more. So many things that it does. And this book is particularly put together in such an unusual, in my opinion, way that somehow covers the largesse of the travel. It's gone a long way.
Oh, it covers travel along with everything else.
It certainly is. So I just wonder if you would consider, do you feel it has a specific theme in this book?
Oh, yes. I think the subtitle basically is the theme. Living the transition into the time that is to come. I feel we are living in a time of monumental change, and we are currently on the brink of annihilating ourselves. We're also on the brink of understanding the true meaning of liberty and justice for all. Considering both aspects, we have our choice of which way to go. And with this in mind, each poem and photo combination has some aspect of the message, living the transition into the time that is to come with liberty and justice for all.
Today, that's the most, what do you call it, hot topic.
I'm hoping it's a hot topic.
It is. Wow. Well, I, in looking at the book, and of course I've read it several times because it's so compelling.
We all have our style.
It has this, how you came about putting the sections or how it's put together.
Well, each section is a previously published booklet. I self-published a book, sometimes almost every year, for gifts and to exchange at various World Congresses of Poets presented by United Poets Laureate International, of which I'm a vice president. So are you. Frequently, one Congress in whatever country will provide me with a number of poems to be included in the next booklet. Each booklet has a distribution of less than 100. Using material from throughout my life, not only the travel and the congresses, but using materials from my various trips and daily adventures, I offer a multi-ethnic, multi-generational view of my life in the world.
I actually witnessed part of it. And so I felt
Quite a bit of it.
very friendly about how you shared this with so many. And so I looked at it in a kind of an amazing wholeness that you put together. And that's why I'd like to ask you about how you came to this unusual cover, because somehow for me, the cover gives you an idea of where we're going together. And I wish you could address that a little bit.
Well, I like my covers to show something about what's inside. This is the cover. The front cover is a photo of a person walking down a clear, easy, well-defined path. But look closely to the left, and there's a very hidden, nearly hidden, narrow, rough path leading upward. Turn the book over, and the photo kind of merges into an abstraction with an abstraction of the path continuing upward, widening, suggesting our concept as we go higher in our search for that which we want to be as opposed to what we think we might be. But as we progress in our own personal paths, that we come to a greater understanding and our path broadens. There's always a path leading up, even when the obvious easy path is going down. Other than that, I simply thought this was just a real pretty picture.
Well, I know that you're particularly good at taking real pretty pictures, being in so many countries with you and watching you try to take in scenes for people for so many years on some of our journeys. And I would like to say, even though it might be a little late to say it in the program, because probably you should have known this earlier, Judy has been moving force, a life force for poetry for so many years, headed so many organizations and organized so many events. She's also the vice president of Artist Embassy International. But if you look at the Dancing Poetry website, that's all Judy's work. She has been able to share with you the essence of Artist Embassy International, but also so many other organizations and their relationships on how the world works with more beautiful words, more kindness, more sharing, more integrated concepts. And I think because it is here, as they say, in a nutshell in this book. Now, I do want to say your earlier book, All of Us Are We, is exceptionally good at putting these feelings together. But this book actually shows you more pictures, and some of them are quite remarkable. The one that stands out, which is unforgettable in my head, makes me worry, was when we were in Nicaragua and the children were grabbing parts of the volcano in order to make little figures to sell to the tourists. Was very poignant. And there are many, many poignant moments in this book that the pictures, the poetry, of course, is exquisite and tells everything, but the pictures also tell everything. Yeah. What page is that on, Judy?
This is page 48. Let's see if I can get it centered here. And there's a poem to go with these three kids. And there's a teenager, you can't quite see it, but the teenager in the mist is standing in a mud pit of an active volcano site,
It's
digging out
very
mud with their hands to give us for souvenirs. Dollar
some of
each.
the extraordinary moments that you have captured for us. Also, some of the performances, some of the places and faces, and also some of the beauty of the flowers, both in your yard and around the world, and it mirrors our lives and how we try to walk poetically through them. I'm to the point where I do want you to share with us one of my favorite poems. And the reason it's one of my favorite poems is because it is a summation of how life has accumulated our memories and our mission together. And it's particularly, I love this poem. It makes me feel like our work is not only there for us and continuing, like they say, the work is never done. We have to always continue the work of the world. And we do it through the artistry, you especially through poetry. And this particular poem, you know which one it is, Judy.
Right. This is
It's on page 105, and it's Awakening the Morning After. Would you read it for us?
Okay. I'm wondering if you can hold up the book for at least a little while so they can see the photograph. Okay, look at your monitor and bring it up closer so that they can see the photograph that goes along with the poem.
Oh, and I might say these postcards, Judy is our postcard maker for the Dancing Poetry Festival, and I save a few and use them as bookmarks. So
they make excellent bookmarks.
They make excellent bookmarks. So here we are. Judy Harden Chung, the poet, reads Awakening the Morning After.
Awakening the morning after. I awoke this morning, the first day after the World Congress of Poets, ready for breakfast to be served, but no longer in a hotel. I'm no longer the international dignitary promoting world peace, brotherhood, and understanding through poetry, but a lone woman waiting at home for her son to bring back her companionable dogs from a walk. I woke up this morning, the first day after the World Congress of Poets, ready to jump and run to the bus for a tour. Instead, I strolled through my garden, exulting in how well my son watered while I was gone. Shoulder-high cosmos dance in the sun. Zucchini bristles from the center of gigantic leaves. Oranges tap my shoulders as if to say, pick me, pick me. Blue bachelor buttons, golden calendula, magenta fuchsias, multicolored petunias, glorious roses, and 6 goldfish in a pond shimmer their greetings as I slowly saunter along my backyard path. I return to my house, ready to get back to work. While my photographs download into my computer, I realize that although I am a lone woman waiting at home for my son to bring back my dogs, I am still a poet promoting world peace, brotherhood, and understanding with everything I do. Every day, every moment, every thought. I feel so happy that I can help the world be the wonderful place that I see. And I hope I can continue this dream.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you so much. That is only one small taste of the poetry that's ready for you in this book, Poetography, Poetry and Photography by Judy Harden Chung. Gee, thank you so much for being with us for this moment and creating this book, especially in this year of 2021, when we really need not only tell it how it is, but also uplifting us with hope and glory for the future. Thank you so much for your work, Judy.
Well, you're welcome, Natika, and thank you.
The creation of a swan. Teacher created a swan on the surface of a white board by rubbing off red chalk with a damp blue rag, but he never saw it. His voice kept exercising his head to make more voice. A glow from the sun reflected an unexpected picture. Beauty, hidden deep within that molded slate, now released to struggle in haze. But Berger never saw it. He wrote on her head. He wrote over her belly. Always he looked another way. Ah, but the swan was not surprised. She knew. Gradually grew faint and finally vanished beneath the chalk mist of words and numbers. The creation of a swan.
Okay, we're ready for another exciting group of prize-winning poets. I'd like to hear from John Curl, Berkeley, California, with your prize-winning poem, The Lake of Our Emergence. John?
The lake of our emergence. What is a word? A meaningful vibration. In the beginning was the word, and the word was creation. Rock, air, fire, water, oak leaves, ocean waves, tropical jungles, oscillates, gasps of ecstasy, groans of love. We look into each other's eyes as we pass in the street. We don't say a word, but we understand the meaningful vibrations beyond words or before words, both before and beyond words at the same time. All living things, all non-living things, music, waterfalls, on this planet and beyond. Flocks of small birds in the early morning, crickets at dusk, the gurgle of a baby, the voices in a singing brook. What are words? Meaningful vibrations. In the beginning was the word, and the word was creation. We walk these slippery banks along the lake of our emergence, the center pole of our forest, our muddy port of entry into this world, our origin of place, our place of origin. We step from the lake into the place we belong. Only briefly do we walk here today, learning how to be indigenous. These restless streets we pace, where our unborn great-grandchildren play. Breezes blow wavelets rolling toward the far shore, while around us hushed fields of poppies grow, and beneath our feet, rocks melt and caverns of magma flow. The uniforms, face shields, nightsticks, separating brother from daughter, sister from mother, do not separate illusion from delusion. All truth is recreated each morning when a small bird peeks out of a nest hidden in a lilac bush by the water's edge. To be able to walk here since the world began is a gift of inexpressible joy. Who gets to claim this wild, watery homeland as their own? Who gets to call it home? Every place is the center of the world, and everywhere is our place of origin.
Thank you. Our next reader is Claire J. Baker from Pinole, California, reading Dancing with Veils. Claire?
Thank you.
Okay, can you repeat your name and where you're from and then your poem?
I am Claire J. Baker. I do live in Pinole, and my poem is called Dancing with Veils. When I've seen the dancers that have the veils, I always am hypnotized by those veils. So Dancing with Veils. Responding to dancers' costumes, energy and coordination. Veils float free from fingertips, swirl and groove with their own ripples, interspersing shadows and light.
Hear me?
Streamers glide dancers back to tales from the Arabian Nights, flying carpets, spice caravans, incense, the Silk Road, Omar Khayyam, Rumi, Hafez, nomads wearing jewels and amulets, bartering over Persian rugs. Swirled high veils go weightless in held breath moments of flowing to another's fingertips. In exchanging silks, friendship is confirmed. As if from the Arabian Nights, flicks from the wrist, wrap a veil around one's shoulders in caressing frisons, in shimmering shivers of awe. Veils. Thank you.
Next reader is Deborah Schmidt, El Sobrante, California, with The Warmth of Other Suns.
Thank you, Judy. My name is Deborah Bacos Schmidt, and I live in El Sobrante, California. This poem is called The Warmth of Other Suns. Suns is spelled S-O-N-S, so it's a little riff on the Langston Hughes line. This poem is based on a beautiful quilted applique by artist Bisa Butler. Still we see them, all too often, photographs of unnamed subjects, the poor, the marginalized, the other, Haitians after the earthquake, children on a Havana street. Such photographs have been taken for a very long time. American archives are full of them, many picturing our own country's indigenous and enslaved people. These images are the visual twin of the slave censuses, in which Black people were recorded by age and gender only, rarely by name, leaving their descendants to painstakingly triangulate dates, sexes, and locations in their quest for their ancestors. Bisa Butler cannot name them, but using applique and quilting, historical arts of Black women, She restores their honor and humanity with every stitch. She chooses solids and prints in cotton, silk, wool, and velvet, fabrics familiar to her subjects. Her palette, the hot brights of Africa, the Kool-Aid colors of the Afrocobra school. Exactingly and with a painter's eye, she cuts and appliques color blocks, her colors choices bold and surprising, yet faithful in spirit to the originals. Finished, her textiles are sweeping in scale. Her subjects, large as life, stand before us in all their pride, their hope, their beautiful vitality.
Very nice. Thank you.
Everyone. And this next one, called The Dissident, was inspired by a true incident in the life of Russian dissident Alexei Navalny. After almost dying from poison, after nearly being blinded, he could have chosen an honorable exile, but he returned home to certain arrest on false charges. At his trial, he stood caged. As his sentence was read, he sought his wife's eyes, past the guards and crossed the courtroom, dark with sorrow above her mask. And like a mime who with eloquent hands both defines and defies invisible walls, he traced with one finger a heart in two perfect halves on the glass between them.
Very nice. Very thought-provoking. Tanya Joyce, Emeryville, California, with Infinity.
Yes, my name is Tanya Joyce, and I am from Emeryville, California, currently in Fort Bragg, California, as I read to you. The title of my poem is Infinity, and it has an epigraph. We dance the shape of a figure 8. Infinity is transmitted with phrase and symbol and image. Natika Angali. And here's the poem. How do we dance infinity? Tarot cards have a cosmic answer. They show a dancer of the world dancing on air, no land in sight. The figure, said to be both she and he, wears a long scarf like Loie Fuller or Isadora Duncan, circling around in a spiral shape like the wheel of fortune. A wand in each hand, the figure has jumped out of a laurel wreath into the middle of the sky. Skeptics claim this is impossible, but all you really need, is a woven hat tied under your chin, like you were planning to work in the garden. Just keep the brim of the hat seduced, as my teacher used to put it, seduced, curved down, obscuring the eyes a bit, so that from any distance, the hat becomes a lemniscate, a figure 8, an endless strip where we go back and forth, one side to the other, until there are no sides and all is one. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Good, thank you.
The dragonfly has been considered an ancient symbol of good fortune. And so I welcome the dragonfly. I welcome the dragonfly past this window beyond me as my eye flies into its skywalk along the pattern it took once before it learned, uprooting the trees, twisting the hills, bending the horizon into some vision which swirls pattern into larger pattern, which swirls into some vision past this window, this glass which encircles me. Ah, I welcome the dragonfly.
I'm Natika Angali of Artist Embassy International. And as you know, the Dancing Poetry Festival is dedicated to poetry, poetry read and poetry danced. So together we hope to share more poetry with the world. I'd like to share this introduction to the book of Journey to Wisdom. This is the voice of Mary Rudge from the new book. Althea Youngman, after many exciting adventures and exotic travels in her life, reached the conclusion that art is a universal language and that the arts are messengers for peace. Althea had a fabulous life in which she had reached out across the globe in her travels and her vision for intercultural appreciation and understanding. Artist Embassy was conceived and continues to function as a true network of understanding for the whole world to uplift all hearts and minds in the language of beauty, which is the language of love, as Althea states. Althea was incredibly lucid in her last days. The experience, once this book was begun, was one of Scheherazade, in which Althea stayed alive one more day, day after day, to tell another story and to hear me read back to her how previous interviews were developed and written. Thank you for letting me share this work that was written by Mary Rudge as an introduction to the book Journey to Wisdom, which is now available, and to let you know that we love to have your poetry and share it with the world whenever possible. Thank you for being with us.
We have Carmine D'Andrea, Pine City, New York, with 2 poems, Letters to Bangalore and A Miracle of Elephants. Carmine?
Thank you very much. My name is Carmen D'Andrea from Pine City, New York, and I would like to read my first poem called Letters to Bangalore. The thin sprout of your love tongues its way into my voice as I sit here in the Shilton Garden in Bangalore reading poetry to friends. Your letters have become blossoms of your desire. The Indian moonlight slips into my eyes like a thief in the market, ready to unjewel your throat. I find myself speaking your letters. My friends are amazed at the strength of the poems, at their feminine grace. The words grow into the night. They catch at the moonlight and float on the air. Sujatha and Krishna and Ram cannot know I am reading your letters by heart. They say that the breath of the poems breathes jasmine, perfumed delight into the Indian night. Their hearts meet your own. It isn't jasmine that floats through the garden, nor my breath, but the ripe pomegranate under your tongue, giving words to my voice. The second poem is A Miracle of Elephants. I trust you all like elephants, big ears or not. A Miracle of Elephants. A miracle of elephants bending on one knee at the temple gates to invoke Ganesh, true blue god of trusty tuskers. Elephants working their way through unending cycles of disparate illusion, working their way toward quiescent karma, hoping in tandem with Shiva, Krishna, Rama, myths become real in the Hindu eye. Ganesh, truant at times from his temple duties, at play perhaps with the willing gopis, goat-fetching girls in flowery meadows, flushed with hibiscus, fragrant with jasmine. Ah, lucky fellow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Diane Elaine Dees from Covington, Louisiana, learning oceanography. Diane?
I am Diane Elaine Dees from Covington, Louisiana, which is just across Lake Pontchartrain from New Orleans. And this is a Shakespearean sonnet that I wrote for a friend's 60th birthday. Learning oceanography. The decades creep, then suddenly rush by, like sand you try to hold until a storm blows through and sends it scattered toward the sky. The breeze upon your skin is not as warm, and the tides approach too fast. You walk the path you always walked, but it doesn't feel the same. You take the one you think might lead to truth. You search the sand and hope to see your name. But we are all like waves, part of the ocean. We touch the shore, then get pulled back just when we think we have our footing. Then our passion to have it make sense drags us back again. Like all the other waves, we must recede and trust the ocean's wild, capricious speed.
Very good, thank you. Linda E. Diamond from Port Orange, Florida. Art Beats. Okay.
Okay, sorry, I was muted.
That's good.
Hi, thank you. Hi. Linda Eve Diamond from Port Orange, Florida. And my poem is Art Beats. Art beats drum with the pulse of beating hearts, as poems, spoken and sung, breathe and flow, light the soul, through screens and pages, streets and stages, flowing through streams of voices, floating free verse, beating paths back to the beat of the beats, back through the ancients, to the first pulse of poetry's eternal heartbeat. Rhyming at times like nursery rhymes, lullabies, all the magical musical poetry we loved so naturally from the start, as words sang and danced with our young hearts. Giving metaphors, some passing through, seen or heard by a few, read in coffee shops, chalked on sidewalks. Some so adored we all wear them out into soft, thin cliches. Tapping into poetry of thoughts, feelings, sounds, the chatter and the clatter, the fight, the fright, the light of hope, the hum and the drum, the quiet beauty of the humdrum. floating with wind hushes and stream rushes, the silence of clouds and stones, the concert of birds that sing and coo as leaves dance and clap. Listening as someone everywhere scribbles in notebooks, taps on keyboards, striking chords, reaching out and reaching in. So much we need to say, so much we need to hear. Tuning in to the pulses of expression, new voices ever joining, reading, writing, rhyming, singing, howling, slamming, jamming, and jamming, chiming in to the open source global poem, adding our own sounds to the spiral bound spinning rounds of voices in this open book of songs, stories, poetry, opening our inner worlds to the universe of sound perspectives, waving in from every shore as we walk through the sand, expanding ourselves, feeling our own little shells cracking.
We're gonna have to do something. It's been a tradition since we began the Dancing Poetry Festival to have Gold Seal awards for new books, especially newly discovered books about poetry. Get on the same page with what's happening in all the art of all books and what's happening in all of our shows. The creative spirit, a universal factor in all cultures, a commission, Seventh World Congress of Poets held in Marrakesh, Morocco. This is written by Althea Youngman, founder of Artists Embassy International. And I quote, during Artists Embassy International's years of service as an embassy of the arts, speaking the universal language of understanding and peace, it has been our privilege to serve thousands of artists from all over the planet. Some of these are legendary. You still may know their names, such as Ruth St. Denis, the world famous dancer. She told us Artists Embassy had fulfilled her life dream when we presented her in her dance of peace on the top of a mountain in our Mount Tamalpais Art Festival and helped her with her paper, The Balance of Power Between Men and Women. Ruth St. Denis was the first American dancer to go to the Orient as an ambassador of the arts. She was one of our first and most enthusiastic encouragers and supporters for the Embassy of the Arts, since she felt so strongly the need for such a service in the dialogue of cultures. I would like to recall encore that particular event happened many years ago. Artists Embassy International is particularly proud to have presented the first poetic dance theater company in America, uniting the poetic word with the visual movement. You will see in this Congress, represented by Artists Embassy International's artist ambassadors, Richard and Natika Angley and Mary Raj. The first American poet artist ambassador traveling in Europe in the 1800s was Joaquin Miller. He was received by Queen Victoria of England and recognized and enjoyed by the pre-Raphaelite poets of the time, Robert Browning, Dante, Gabriel Rossetti, by Oscar Wilde and others all over Europe. Joaquin Miller was the author of one of the most famous poems, which in my childhood, this is Althea speaking, we all learned in school, Columbus. I still remember the verse. For several years, Artists Embassy was privileged to have its headquarters in Oakland, California, in the home of Joaquin Miller, in Joaquin Miller Park, named for the poet. This was by the invitation of Miller's daughter, Juanita.
who heard a radio program from Artist Embassy, which she said expressed all that Papa stood for, his life dream. While at Miller's home, Juanita and I received such distinguished artists as Raymond Duncan, the brother of Isadora Duncan from Paris, Gordon Norris, then Poet Laureate of California, the Ina Kulbris Circle poets, and we presented artists from many ethnic groups, such as the National Dancers of Ceylon, who performed in the adjoining amphitheater dedicated to poets and writers. Thank you for letting me share this with you. I think it gives you an overview of what Artist Embassy is, as they say, in a nutshell. Thank you.
The Poetic Dance Theater Company of Artist Embassy International is unique in USA dance history as dedicated to creating a visual as well as a verbal language for poetry. The Poetic Dance Theater Company developed through Natika Angali's study of ancient and modern dance forms, drawing on many cultures, and the poetry of Richard Angali and Mary Rudge. They write of the elements of water, wind, and fire, stars and whales, of the earth and its peoples. Inspired by their travels through Egypt, Morocco, Holland, Spain, France, and Greece, the Poetic Dance Theater Company, shown here in montage, has performed by invitation of kings and poets. From the Temple of Karnak along the River Nile to an audience of 2,000 at the MGM Grand Hotel in Reno, Nevada. They have introduced their concepts of poetry and dance in unity to numerous gatherings on 3 continents, taking the poems from the page to the stage. Their cultural tours abroad and in the U.S. have been commended by Congressman Pete Stark in the Congressional Record with this quote, "I salute their commitment to promote peace and harmony in the world through their art."
Welcome, welcome to Wonderland. In a fairy tale or animated cartoon, it's heroic adventure. Enter the special world, fascinating rides to startlingly new dimensions. Your circus comes to town and rearranges normal views into magical perspective. Unusual talents transform you. Mysterious powers and skills make real your own vivid dream. What is that, another world? Different? Elsewhere? Not here? Where's that fantasy here? Here we're caught in routine, locked in habitual pattern. Usually asleep to our own unique rhythm. Yet our routine is our rhythm, our habits, our creativity, patterns for being free. Let our visions awake. We dance our dazzling spin on the edge of all creation. Here's there, there's here. We are all that. Wonderland, being here and there at once. We live within that wonder peace, creating ourselves constantly. Welcome, welcome to Wonderland. Arturo, Wanda, Cocaco, Vera, Wanda, Cindy, Leona,
You're a wonderful audience. As our finale, we present to you our phoenix, our firebird. As we send out more birds, birds of wonder, birds of creativity, come join us. Let's put that on the other side of the waves, behind the cloud silhouetted in flame, the country with no name. I send my birds to find it. They bring back fruits. Their wings are bathed in exotic perfume. Their eyes tell me stories. Our nights welcome strange dwellers. The mist is on the land. Responses are ghosts. Dance about us. Entertain new shapes, shadows, form, intersecting patterns across your body. You swing down, under, through me. Our legs become vines, play with the trunks. Fast spiders, our lips, our nose, our mind, our mind runs backwards, slows, enters, swarms through us, out, our toes. We are quiet, our raft flows. The night has no answers, passes. turns our questions into patchwork. We need to send out more birds.